Welcome to my channel, Jose G, Lone Wolf of Arizona. Hey, Mr. Broccoli, how you doing today? It's a beautiful day out. Can't complain about that. Not cold or anything. It's like just a beautiful summer afternoon. Like nice sunny weather out. This is great. We'll wait a few more minutes and get a few more people in. Oh, geez, that sucks. It's been raining here. All the places I like to go are flooded. More rain on the way this weekend. Jeez. Where do you live, by the way? We have 4 people in chat. Let's go ahead and hit that like button, folks. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Oh, okay. Dang, California's been getting a lot of that rain there. It's unbelievable. Just kind of odd for this time of the year. You know what I mean? Dang, they don't have nobody to take care of that? I mean, maybe a lot of them drainage systems are plugged or something. It's probably got a lot of debris on it and just need to be cleared probably. Never know. Okay, well, we got 3 people in chat. Let's at least get 4 likes in here. Come on now. Okay, well, I'm gonna try this again because I don't know. I have to just restream again. God damn, it just wasted notification. It's different when you're on the other side instead of being in the chat. You know, you can see people in chat or whatever. Yeah, probably. Oh, we'll get started. No sense in wasting a notification for nothing. Yeah, it says there's 4 people in chat now. 2 people. The thumbs up. Alrighty. Nevertheless, however, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Alright, this one is about the Grime Holly Heist. A tale from the hanging tree. I don't want to die with my boots on, cried Lafayette Grime as he squatted on the dust encrusted ground and took off a pair of very petite shoes, size 4. He gazed above him at the huge sycamore tree that spanned the width of the road. Across one of its broad boughs, the 2 thick ropes swayed in the night's light breeze. One noose would soon encircle the young man's neck. The other was for his partner, Curtis Holly, who angrily scoffed when the Reverend D.W. Calfee offered to pray with the condemned men. What the devil is the future to me? Holly growled. It's the present that's bothering me. I want to get away from this mob. More than 100 men watched as a diminutive Lafayette, barely out of his teens, unsteadily rose from the ground on his stocking feet. He had already fainted once, and the crowd waited to see if he would die of fright before the noose did its work. When the order was given, dozens of hands willingly pulled the ropes that sent Lafayette, Grime, and Curtis B. Holly to their deaths. Only 4 days prior, on August 20th, 1882, they had enjoyed reputations as upstanding citizens in the town of Globe. Now they would forever be known as the most inept robbers and murderers in the young history of Arizona Territory. Lafayette Grime, his older brother Cicero, and their friend Curtis Holly were also 3 of the most unlikely road builders in Arizona. However, their attempt to construct a thoroughfare from the town of Pinal, just south of Globe, to the hamlet of Riverside, about 30 miles away, was the impetus that started them down the path of ropes, to the ropes dangling from the sycamore tree. Hey, Luke, what's happening, man? Fair-haired Lafayette Fate Grime, a very slight man with unbelievable small feet, made his living tapping around Globe as a dance instructor. He supplemented his income by working in the mines and mills when money got tight on the dance floor. Cicero Grime, a photographer by trade, had recently established a construction company, Grime Company, which was the operational base for their new venture. Curtis Halley ran a wood and charcoal business providing materials to local mining companies. The three men submitted a bid of $1,800 to build the wagon road, and their proposal was accepted on the condition they obtain a bond. Probably was. The road was going to cost about $4,000 to complete. When they failed to secure a bond in the time allotted, the novice road builders requested and were given an extension until April 1st, 1882. When that day came and went with no bond posted, the contract went to the next lowest bidder. Undaunted, the men planned to build a bridge at the lower end of town, but as they talked to the logistics of such an undertaking, one of them suggested that robbing a stagecoach would be a lot easier and much more rewarding. From this casual remark, the three soon-to-be outlaws inaugurated plans to rob a Wells Fargo shipment as the buckboard coach made its way to the Pinal Mountains from Casa Grande to Globe. These carriages often toted mail and payrolls of gold to local mines. Not all stages were fully enclosed carriages. An open buckboard wagon was more adept at handling the rough road through the Pinals. Even then, trails to the mines deep within the mountains often required shipments be transferred to mule teams to maneuver the sometimes treacherous and often inaccessible pathways. When the men heard a large shipment coming through on Sunday, August 20th, they headed about 4 miles into the mountains to Pioneer Pass, where the road careened around a sharp bend. Lafayette and Curtis hunkered down behind a massive boulder and waited. The bandits had no intention of shooting anyone, just slowing the mules and scaring the driver away. Along with Curtis's .44 caliber rifle and Lafayette's .50 caliber Springfield, they brought with them a miner's pickaxe and a hatchet, but no horses for the getaway. Yeah. Hey, what's up, Joko? How you doing today? You're welcome in, man. Leaving his brother and Curtis behind the rocks, Cicero the spotter steered his horse down the trail toward the expected payload. His job was to peacefully intercept the buckboard stage and determine if it carried a stash lucrative enough to warrant the holdup. Mule Skinner Frank Porter also waited for the Wells Fargo wagon. As he studied his 6-mule team, he was glad to see Cicero Grime riding his way. Porter would transfer the heavy gold payroll to his mules for the ride up to the mining camp, and he was grateful to have Cicero's help to lighten the workload. As soon as the buckboard driven by Wells Fargo messenger Andy Hall came to a halt, the men began hauling the gold off the wagon and onto mules. Hall had already distinguished himself in Arizona history by serving with Major John Wesley Powell on the first successful trek through the Grand Canyon in 1869. Curiosity got the better of Cicero as he tied the strong box to Porter's lead mule. When Hall told him the box contained $5,000 in gold for the Mike Morris mine, Cicero suppressed a satisfied sneer and quickly tightened the straps an extra notch. Picking up his horse's reins, he bade the two men so long and casually sauntered up the trail toward the hidden gunman. Reaching the boulder where Lafayette and Curtis lay in wait, Cicero alerted the men that the Wells Fargo shipment contained a sizable amount of gold and the heist was on. He warned that Hall, who was leading the pack train, had a gun, but that Porter, bringing up the rear, carried no weapon. And Cicero headed back in the Globe to give himself an alibi for the day's upcoming events. Oh, yeah, it was. Jeez, that's a lot of money. Hall drove the mules cautiously. He knew one unsteady move would spook the creatures, and he did not want any missteps until he delivered the hefty payload to the mine. As he approached the towering boulder, flanked by a steep incline on the other side of the trail, he slowed the mules to the pace of a well-fed snail. Without warning, Lafayette and Curtis opened fire, quickly killing the lead mule. Before Hall could react, another barrage of bullets sent him scurrying out of harm's way. He shouted to Porter, who had not yet reached the pass, to hightail it into Globe and bring help fast. Hall hastily put greater distance between himself and the gunmen too far away to see them clearly. He assumed they were Indians since several Indian attacks had occurred recently in the vicinity. As he took aim, he saw two men slashing the ropes holding the strongbox to the now dead, treasure-laden mule. His shots missed, but return fire found its mark, and Hall hobbled away with a bullet through his thigh. With his hatchet, Lafayette hacked open the strongbox, swiftly transferred the money to his saddlebags, then swung the bags over his shoulder. Ready to hightail it into the hills, Curtis wanted to sort through the registered mail for other lucrative loot, but Lafayette was already on the move, leaving the burly woodcutter to follow dutifully in the dancer's diminutive footsteps. Before long, the two bandits came upon Dr. F.W. Vale, who was leading a pack horse loaded with supplies to his mine. The well-respected Globe druggist had heard gunfire and asked the men if they knew what had happened. Lafayette and Curtis offered up that they suspected Indians were in the area and three of the men should press on together toward Globe. Vale unloaded his pack horse so that two horseless bandits could travel more expeditiously. About a mile down the road, Lafayette and Curtis got jittery about Vale. They returned his horse and let the pharmacist get a few yards away before Curtis whipped out his gun and cowardly shot him in the back. Lafayette obligingly plugged a couple more bullets into the dying man. Heading off on both of Vale's horses, the two men next ran into Hall, who still believed the Indians had attacked the mule team. Hall showed the bandits the bullet he had extracted from his thigh and urged them to join him in searching for the fugitives. Lafayette and Curtis agreed, but the novice desperados soon grew uneasy, particularly when Hall exhibited an increasing interest in Lafayette's overstuffed and very heavy saddlebags. Allowing Hall to get a few feet ahead, they opened fire. With his gun still in hand, Hall dropped dead to the ground. His trigger finger erratically sent a burst of gunfire into the air. Damn. They shot him in the back, man. Not daring to take Dr. Vale's horses in the Globe for fear the steeds would be recognized, the men headed out on foot, stopping only to divide the loot into 3 equal shares and bury it near Russell Gulch, each keeping a few of the $20 gold pieces for spending money. They then made their way separately back to town. By now, Mule Skinner Porter had arrived in Globe and sounded the alarm. Church bells rang out as a posse, headed by Gila County Sheriff William Lowther, took off into the mountains and the robbery site. Around sundown, they came upon Dr. Vale, not far from death, but able to identify his attackers as men he had seen around Globe. One a big dark guy, the other a small, fair-haired younger man. Not much later, the search party stumbled across Hall's body, sporting enough bullet holes to raise hairs on a rattlesnake's hide. At the robbery site, they quickly discovered the bandits' hiding spot and distinguished 2 sets of footprints behind the boulder. One so small they looked as if they belonged to a woman. From this shred of evidence, plus Dr. Vale's description of his assailants, the sheriff had a good idea who had committed the crimes. Only one man in town wore shoes that petite. Within hours after the shooting, rewards totaling $6,000 were posted for the capture of the individual or persons responsible for the slayings of Dr. Vale and Andy Hall. As the bodies of the 2 slain men were laid to rest on Monday, a mournful Cicero Grant volunteered to toll the bell for the funeral procession. Curtis decided the safest place for him was at home. Lafayette only stuck around long enough to return fire he had borrowed before heading for wheat fields on the pretext of having work to do. Unfortunately, he forgot to clean the gun before returning it. The owner, somewhat suspicious of the condition of his rifle, took it to the gunsmith shop where the cartridges were compared with those found at the murder sites. The match was close enough to alert Sheriff Lowther. On Tuesday, acting on Lowther's conviction that Lafayette was one of the men involved in the robbery and murders, Pete Gabriel, who served as both Pinal County Sheriff and U.S. Deputy Marshal, located the runaway suspect in wheat fields. Wanting Lafayette to admit his part in the crime, the lawman did some fast talking to obtain the young man's confession. Gabriel informed the inexperienced outlaw that he had witnessed the killing of Hall and saw Lafayette put 3 bullets in the poor man. Lafayette couldn't get the words out fast enough. "No, I didn't," he cried. "I only shot him twice." After that, his confession was a mere formality, and he quickly implicated Curtis and Cicero. But he insisted his brother had nothing to do with the murders and only participated in the robbery. Well, yeah. By Wednesday, all 3 men were under arrest. When Sheriff Lowther wired the Wells Fargo agent in San Francisco that the culprits had been apprehended but the gold not yet recovered, the agent shot back, "Damn the money. Hang the murderers." Marshal Gabriel wanted the suspects held in the Florence jail to be tried for tampering with the U.S. mail. But Sheriff Lowther argued the murders of Vale and Hall were more heinous crimes and insisted the men be locked up in Globe. Each of the lawmen may have had his eyes on the reward money, triggering a strong hankering to retain custody of the outlaws. At a deadlock, they finally agreed to let Judge J.D. McCobb determine which charge took precedence and where the outlaws should be sequestered. The judge ordered the trio remanded into Sheriff Lowther's custody to stand trial for murder. Tempers were running high in Globe by Wednesday evening. Oh, hold on. You already killed 3 people this year. Ah, man. That's very sad, man. Just things like that happen, man. Just doesn't stop. Toward sundown, several hundred angry men assembled outside the jail, ready to break down the door if the sheriff did not turn over the 3 outlaws. They had already swung 3 ropes across the big sycamore tree in the middle of town. The other insisted that the outlaws be given a fair hearing. He sent for Justice of the Peace George Allen and moved his prisoners to Dr. Stallo's large dance hall to allow enough room for almost the entire town to witness the proceedings. Dr. Vale's widow Irene was there, along with Cicero's wife Sylvia and their 4 children. Within minutes, Judge Allen determined the prisoners be bound over to the Superior Court for jail, but the crowd demanded instant retribution. They had already decided there would be hanging that night. Lafayette and Curtis agreed to show the mob where they had stashed the gold, hoping that might improve their dire situation. About 30 men marched the 2 desperados back to Russell Gulch to uncover the hidden treasure. Meanwhile, Cicero was returned to his cell to await the outcome of the treasure hunt. His life would be spared thanks to the pleas of his wife and Miss Vale, both arguing he should be allowed to live since he took no part in the killings. Returning to town with the loot and the condemned men, the assemblage refused to consider any more delays. As the church bells began to echo across the valley, Lafayette, Graham, and Curtis Hawley signed confessions and drew up their wills before the throng escorted them down the street to the sycamore tree. It was now 2 a.m. Thursday. 2 of the 3 ropes hanging from the tree were tightened and a dozen burly arms grabbed on to hoist the men to their desks. Only Lafayette's empty boots remained firmly on the ground. The lifeless bodies remained on the sycamore tree until almost noon before they were finally cut down. Damn. They're trying to make an example of him that way. Shit, that's just shit. The 4-day crime spree resulted in 4 dead men, 1 dead mule, and Cicero Graham waiting in fearful expectation that another mob would determine he too should hang. On September 25th, 1882, Cicero was tried and convicted of robbing the U.S. mail and sentenced to serve 21 years in Yuma Territorial Prison. He arrived in Yuma on October 11th. There's that tree. Sorry, folks, not a really good picture, but yeah. The following summer, Cicero started acting mighty strange, and his jailers became concerned he would harm himself or someone else with his erratic behavior. Since Arizona would not build a facility for the mentally ill until 1886, prison officials shipped him off to an asylum in Stockton, California. Two months after his arrival, Cicero walked out of the asylum and was never seen or heard from again. Speculation continues today as to whether he was really insane or faking his madness to get out of prison. In 1884, a man by the name of Robert Alexander was arrested in Oregon and accused of being the long-lost Cicero Graham, but no one could positively say he was the same man who had instigated the robbery in far-off Arizona, and he was released. Peace returned to the globe until a devastating fire burned a large portion of the town in 1894, including the old sycamore hanging tree. 2 years later, what remained of the tree was leveled to the ground. Whiskey-soaked old cowboys will tell you that when the wind whispers across the road where the majestic tree once stood, they can still hear the moans of condemned men who died under the massive sycamore branches. One had to listen hard, however, to hear the cries of Lafayette Graham and Curtis Howley. They perpetuated their crime so quickly and so futilely that they barely had time to confess before the tree enveloped them in the throes and satisfaction of vindication. Now, yep. That's the end of that one. Dang, that was pretty gruesome. Just the way they used to handle them folks back then, just to sling them on a tree there like that and just hang them. They have no other. They have the other ways to do it like we do today, like gas chamber or the electric chair. I don't even think that exists anymore. I don't know if that exists anymore. The electric chair, but dang, pretty different of the way they handled things back then. Alrighty. You, yeah, first episode of Dumbest Criminals. Oh, wait. Big crowd. Chasing him in a cardiac arrest. Oh, shit. Oh, I'm sorry, Broccoli. I thought you were talking about the book. You guys have got a conversation going here. Alrighty. Next chapter is The Noble Forger, James Addison Reeves. Do you guys have any comments or any questions about that one? Or any thoughts, whatever, before we get going on the next one? Yeah, it was. Hold on, guys. I gotta run to the boys' room right quick. I'll be right back. And then we'll get started on the next one. Yeah, yeah, it was brutal justice. You shot someone in the back. I confess, I guess no wasting time about it. Alrighty, we'll go ahead and get started on the next one here. Imagine walking into the state capital of Arizona and demanding ownership of more than 12 million acres of land spanning 235 miles west to east from Phoenix to the western boundaries of Silver City, New Mexico, and 75 miles north and south, encompassing not only the Phoenix population but dozens of outlying agricultural and mining communities, including Tempe, Mesa, Casa Grande, Florence, Safford, Globe, Miami, Superior, Clifton, Coolidge, and Morenci. 5 rivers run through this massive desert region, and just as many Indian reservations occupy territory within its boundaries. The San Francisco and Mogollon Mountains jut out the eastern portion of the expanse with the Picacho, Galiuro, and Pinolino mountain ranges spanning the southern end. Military enclaves fall within these boundaries and railroads run across the territory. Thousands of people occupy the land. Some claim less than an acre, while others hold deeds to hundreds of acres that they farm, ranch, and mine. About 125 years ago, James Addison Rebus sought to claim all this land and everything that was on it as his own, and he almost got away with it. Rebus was already in his 30s when he arrived in Arizona in 1880, but he had not been idle during his formative years. A Missourian by birth, he joined the Confederate Army at the age of 18, but found military life dull and uninteresting. To keep himself occupied, he practiced forging his commanding officer's signature and was soon handing out bogus leave papers and furloughs to his army buddies. When his ruse was discovered, he headed across the Mason-Dixon line and enlisted in the Union Army. Boredom overtook him again. He asked for an official leave to marry and left the army, never to return. Neither did he marry. Wow. Damn, went from forging names and shit to get some of his soldiers on leave, and damn, he asked for a leave to marry, but never even got married. That's some shit. Young Grievous spent a year in Brazil before settling in St. Louis around 1865, where he worked as a conductor on horse-drawn streetcars. He invested his meager earnings in land and property, never hesitating to produce a missing deed or document by falsifying the necessary papers. Soon his proclivity for fraud and forgery brought devious businessmen to his door. He gladly created counterfeit papers for those willing to pay for his talent. In 1871, Dr. George M. Willing Jr. came looking for Rivas. Willing had abandoned his wife and children in St. Louis some years back to seek his fortune in the lucrative western gold fields. He claimed he had purchased a large tract of land in Arizona Territory from Miguel Peralta and his father, descendants of Spanish nobility who were now living in poverty. It was rich land, ripe for farming and ranching, and according to his calculations, a wealth of gold and silver lay beneath the rocky soil. Would Rivas be interested in entering into a partnership to develop this valuable property? Rivas listened intently as Dr. Willing described the bounty that awaited in Arizona. Whether he believed Willing or not, he saw opportunity far beyond what the good doctor envisioned and readily entered into the partnership. Willing headed west in late 1873. Rivas tarried long enough to marry Ada Pope on May 5, 1874, but left shortly thereafter and did not see Ada again for over 6 years. She did not see Ada again for over 6 years. I'm sorry. She divorced him in 1883, claiming desertion. Rivas' route took him through the Isthmus of Panama and into California. He arrived in San Francisco only to discover Willing had died in Prescott, Arizona in March 1874. Willing's unclaimed gunny sack of belongings, including the deeds he said he had acquired from the Peralta heirs, was stowed in the coroner's attic in Prescott. Rivas stayed in California for several years and taught school in Downey before hiring on as a subscription agent with the San Francisco Daily Examiner. During this time, he formulated a covulated plan to make the best of his deal with the deceased Willing. Rivas took the meager information Willing had related to him and set about creating a dynasty of enormous proportions. He knew that under the terms of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, 1848, and the Gadsden Purchase, 1854, the United States was obligated to recognize valid Spanish and Mexican land grants. Most of the Arizona grants were considered worthless and had been abandoned by the original owners. Hey, what's up, John Danicola? Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Thank you for joining in. By now, Rivas must have doubted that Miguel Peralta and his father even existed, or if they did, they were far from the noble inheritors Willing had proclaimed them to be. He had seen enough forged documents in his day to figure out that the papers Willing had shown him were worthless. But those official-looking certificates now reposing in the attic of the Prescott coroner's office would become the impetus upon which he planned to defraud the people of Arizona out of millions of acres of land, and they must be dealt with. He had to obtain clear title to continue with his devious plot. The Peralta grant, as he decided to call it, would become property bequeathed to the family by proclamation of the King of Spain. Oh, I want a popo. I don't know where he's going. The Peralta grant, as he decided to call it, will become property bequeathed to the family by proclamation of the King of Spain. Now all he had to do was create the Peralta clan, falsify existing records, and deposit 3 fraudulent documents where they could be discovered as evidence of the family's legal right to the land. The family Rivas concocted began its reign in Spain in 1708 with the birth of Don Miguel Nemesio Silva de Peralta de la Cordova. Don Miguel entered the service of the King of Spain and was sent to Guadalajara in New Spain, now Mexico, as a city inspector. Rivas gave him the title of the Baron of Arizonaca and had the king bestow upon him a grant of land. Don Miguel, according to Rivas, visited the northern tract of land only once, declaring the area around what is now Casa Grande the barony of Arizona. Murderous Apaches purportedly drove him out of the region back to Mexico. Here we go. Here is James Addison Rivas. Hey, Boopy, Boopy, Boopy. What's happening? Snark and Sass, how you doing? Don Miguel did not marry until he was 62 years old. Rivas claimed, but he soon had a son, Jesus Miguel Silva de Peralta de la Cordova y Sanchez de Bonilla, born in 1781. To eliminate the need for another generation, Rivas allowed Don Miguel to live to the age of 116. When he died, all of his property went to Jesus Miguel. Under Rivas' penmanship, Jesus Miguel became the father of the miner who sold the Peralta lands to Dr. Willing. The Peraltas seemed to have long lifelines. Rivas now had to get his lands on the deeds Willing had showed him in St. Louis. When he stepped off the stagecoach in Phoenix in 1880, Rivas passed himself off as a reporter for the Examiner. Dressed in a long black coat and carrying a silver knobbed cane, the tall, imposing man with sapphire blue eyes and a startling shock of red hair set out almost immediately for Prescott to locate the gunny sack Willing had left behind. He found the bag filled with Willing's clothes and odd items. And at the very bottom lay the deeds signed by the father and son, Jesus and Miguel Peralta. Rivas now had only one more person to eliminate in order to claim the Peralta property on his own. He's pretty ruthless. Marianne Willing had known Rivas in St. Louis and trusted his friendship without reservation. Yeah, Joko, that's some big ass sideburns, man. Marianne Willing had known Rivas in St. Louis and trusted his friendship without reservation. So when Rivas promised her thousands of dollars if she would sign over to him her late husband's interest in the Peralta documents, she did not hesitate. Now, with complete control of the false Peralta grant, Rivas sent about producing the documents he believed would convince the government of Arizona that the land grant actually existed. With his penmanship expertise, he spent weeks perfecting forged documents. He recreated inks used in the 1700s and painstakingly practiced writing with the flourish of old Spanish monks and scribes. When he was satisfied with his masterpieces, he traveled to Spain and Mexico surreptitiously surreptitiously inserting these well-crafted, ancient-looking papers into church records and official depositories, verifying the existence of the Peralta family. At the same time, he furtively filched documents that disproved the existence of this noble clan. All this planning and scheming took an enormous amount of time, effort, expertise, lying, cheating, and counterfeiting before Rivas felt he had established the Peralta lineage. By 1882, he was ready to lay claim to 12 million acres of prime Arizona land. The man with the well-manicured mustache and sweeping sideburns who appeared in Tucson in March 1882 carried a suitcase brimming with authentic documents. And authentic is in quotes. He quickly hustled down the road to the Graham County Courthouse in Safford to file papers asserting his legal ownership by purchase of the Peralta grant. When the court refused to recognize his claim, Rivas returned to California to manufacture even more documents. In March 1883, he was back in Tucson filing a raft of deeds, documents, photographs, and conveyances with the U.S. Surveyor General, claiming himself the rightful landowner to the 12 million acre Peralta grant. Rivas wasted no time collecting from those he insisted were usurping his land. He sold quitclaims to nervous farmers, ranchers, and sellers who were fearful of losing property they believed they already owned. They were that if Rivas was the rightful owner, they would never obtain clear titles to their homes and properties unless they gave in to his demands. He requested little money from these landowners, and often for the price of a meal, he would give away a quitclaim or two. His purpose was to show that by signing the deeds, the good citizens of Arizona recognized his legal right to the land. Many were skeptical and refused to sign, but Rivas persevered in his request for his rightful and legal property. Yeah, he's a schemer and a forger. That's what he's doing. Cabron. After it was reported the Southern Pacific Railroad had capitulated to his demands and agreed to pay $50,000 to continue building track across his property, Rivas felt he had the territory of Arizona up against the wall. But the papers he had filed with the Surveyor General were under his careful scrutiny. In 1885, the court determined Rivas' claim was invalid. Tempers mounted against the stately gentleman. He fled to San Francisco with the Weekly Phoenix Herald proclaiming him the Earl of the Iron Jaw, Count of Confidence Land, Lord of the Limber Tongue, and Great Mogul of the territory. Cheek, thy name is Rivas. He did not return for 2 years. Rivas determined he needed a direct Peralta descendant to convince the courts that grant existed. He found his angel on the streets, that's in quotes, angel, of California, and transformed her into the Baroness of Arizona. Sophia Treadway was born about 1864 to John and Kate Treadway, but they were long gone from her life when she ran into the devious Rivas. Devious Rivas. He sent her to a convent to become a lady and educate her in the refinements of royalty. In 1887, he introduced her to Tucson society as Doña Sofia Michaela Maso Rivas y Peralta de la Cordova, his wife. Rivas had to concoct the story of his wife's pedigree and place her within the Peralta dynasty. So I remember hearing this kind of predicament too in another story I was reading here. The same shit. Just to marry somebody to get them, yeah, I remember another story I read about this kind of shit. Yeah, that's crazy. Rivas had to concoct the story of his wife's pedigree and place her within the Peralta dynasty. His fictional narrative proclaimed she was the great-granddaughter of the first Baron of Arizona. She had been born a twin, but her brother died at birth and her mother shortly after. She was raised in Mendocino County, California by her grandmother. Rivas said he first laid eyes on Doña Sofia while on a train. He immediately recognized her ancestral features as belonging to the Peralta clan. When he was satisfied he had established Doña Sofia's royal birth, Rivas got out his ink pen to create the documents perfecting her lineage. He set off once again on his well-traveled route to Spain and Mexico, leaving his newly crafted papers in the same depositories he had previously visited. When he returned to the States, he revealed documents miraculously found proving his wife's heritage, including the old will of Jesus Miguel, bequeathing all his holdings, and particularly the Peralta land to his granddaughter, Doña Sofia. Hey, that's all right, Cindy D. YouTube's silly like that, and that's the way they are. Sometimes send out the notifications super late or right when I'm ending my stream. Okay. In September 1887, Rivas, now calling himself James Addison Peralta Rivas, and Peralta Rivas is all spelled together, filed the previously missing with the Tucson office of the Surveyor General. The Arizona Daily Citizen lamented, "It seems as if the woes of Arizona were never to end. First come the Apaches and then the blackmailers and land grabbers. Everything that I've done has been in the interest of my wife and not for any claim preferred by me," he told the San Francisco Daily Examiner. "I have nothing to do with it except in my character as her husband. It is my duty to see what her rights are given her, that her rights are given her, and you can rest assured that I intend doing it." While Rivas was busily counterfeiting, filching, and inserting the documents necessary to establish his argument that the Peralta grant existed, Royal Johnson, the Surveyor General, was working diligently to disprove the validity of the reams of papers filed by Rivas. In 1889, he reported his findings, noting that many of Rivas's documents were written with a steel pen, an instrument not used until after 1800. He accurately pointed out the differences in penmanship between authenticated documents written in the 1700s and those filed by Rivas, purportedly written at the same time. Paper watermarks appeared that were not available until the mid-1800s. There were misspellings of Spanish words in some of the fraudulent documents. Johnson ordered a search of Spanish archives for papers pertaining to the Peralta claim and found no evidence of the family. His court concluded with a recommendation that Rivas' claim be denied. It's being, in my mind, without the slightest foundation, in fact, and utterly void. Rivas filed suit against the government seeking damages in the amount of $10 million. He said the monies already paid to him proved the validity of his claim. Along with the Southern Pacific Railroad's $50,000, the Silver King Mining Company had banded over $25,000, or handed over $25,000, excuse me. In all, Rivas had already collected over $145,000 from landowners for the rights to use Peralta land, a sum equivalent to over $3 million today. Jeez. Rivas bought his claim before the newly formed Court of Private Land Claims in Santa Fe, New Mexico. When court convened on June 3, 1895, Rivas was nowhere to be found, nor did he appear the next day, but the trial went forth without him. On June 5th, the court received a telegram from Rivas asking the trial to be continued until June 10th. Finally appearing and placed on the stand, Rivas proclaimed his sole desire in obtaining the Peralta grant was to develop Arizona. As a fact, I never cared that much for the grant, except the honor of having done something in it. I am not a lover of money, but I am a lover of development and building up a country. Therefore, my whole life has been in the interest of building up Arizona. For 2.5 days, he rambled on about the Peralta family. Then he wheeled a large truck into the courtroom that he claimed contained absolute proof of his wife's heritage. He began pulling copious amounts of documents out of the truck. Next came dozens of portraits, pictures of his wife's ancestors, he said. He argued that this was all proof the court should require to award his wife her rightful property. This is most likely the evidence he was creating when he was absent from court. The court did not believe a word he said. His claim was deemed wholly fictitious and fraudulent, and he was immediately arrested and charged with conspiracy to defraud the government. Unable to provide bail, Rivas languished in jail for more than a year. His criminal trial commenced on June 27, 1896, and lasted just a few short days. Much of the same testimony presented at the first trial was again introduced. Witnesses who had initially backed Rivas' story now admitted they had lied. He was found guilty as charged in the indictment to default the United States government out of parts of its public lands in connection with the effort to establish the fictitious and fraudulent Peralta grant. Rivas' sentence was pretty mild considering he had hoped to acquire a good portion of Arizona territory with his fraudulent scheme. He was sentenced to serve 2 years in the Santa Fe Penitentiary and pay a fine of $5,000. Man, that's a heavy fine. He promised he would appeal his conviction, but never did. On April 18, 1898, he walked out of prison proclaiming he would once again return to the world of business. His wife, now using the name Sophia Treadway Rivas and no longer asserting her noble status, settled in Denver with the couple's twin boys, Miguel and Carlos, born in 1893, and their adopted son, Fenton. In 1902, she filed for divorce, citing desertion and non-support. Rivas languished in California, never again experiencing the opulent lifestyle he enjoyed as an Arizona aristocrat. Penniless, he took up residency in the Los Angeles County Port Farm, but moved to Denver in 1914. He died on November 20th, 1914. No other criminal came close to robbing Arizona of the vast sums of money and millions of acres of land that James Addison Rivas tried to swindle. He was a brilliant and talented man who lived a life of fraud and fantasy. His scheme to be acknowledged as a nobleman earned him only one thing: the dubious title of the Baron of Arizona. Wow. Here's his picture. He looked totally different without that beard. That's him in prison. Well, that's going to conclude that one. I really do thank you guys always being here, supporting as much as you guys can. It is very much appreciated. And my channel is growing very, very much by the day. And 1 minute, it says 1.07K. Then, like a few days later, it went up to 1.08K. That was pretty awesome, man. So the channel's getting recognized, and no, he doesn't look like a serial killer, does he? Damn, he had that cold ass stare, though. Shit. Um.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Alrighty.
Well, that's an interesting tripod setup.
Yeah. I was just doing a live stream here. I'm almost done. I'm just closing out right now.
You're on the internet?
Yeah.
Oh, I better not talk then.
Oh, it's all right. I'm already done.
Oh,
I was already about to close out. So,
what was the live stream about?
just some tales of
Oh,
some of the outlaws, robbers, rustlers, and bandits and stuff.
oh yeah, like the Wyatt Earp, like the Earps.
There was a story in there that contained the herbs.
Warren Earp was murdered right here in Wilcox.
Oh yeah.
And then, you know about that?
Yeah. I was born and raised here.
Yeah? The
Yeah.
who?
I was born and raised here.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
And then one of the Earps, I think, came and killed that guy.
Yeah. Over here at the just at this where the winery's at now.
Where the winery?
Yeah, there used to be an old saloon right there at the corner, right at
At the corner there.
Maley and Railroad Avenue.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah.
I was born in Germany and grew up in Chicago.
I don't know.
I've been in Arizona since '71, and I spent some time in Utah driving through snow 3 feet deep and working up there. And I spent most of 2020 in Hungary. That's where my dad was from. He was German, born and raised in Hungary. He spent 5 years in a concentration camp under Stalin.
Oh, wow.
The death rate was 75%.
Wow.
And a Russian girl helped save his life. So I want to marry a Russian or a Ukrainian girl for my next wife. In fact, here's one of them I'm corresponding with right now. It's all the same girl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, she's beautiful.
Yeah, they got like practically the best looking women in the whole world there in Ukraine.
Oh, yeah.
Ukraine and Russia, kind of. Yeah, this girl, I don't know, they all write me, and a lot of them look like supermodels, and they complain about the men in Ukraine because a lot of them are wife abusers, wife beaters,
Yeah.
women beaters, and alcoholics, severe alcoholics. But one thing I've observed is when a country's economy is real crappy, like Ukraine has absolutely one of the most corrupt governments in the entire world. And if that wasn't bad enough, the criminals in the United States overthrew it in 2014 and installed our puppet government. It made it even more corrupt.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so what happens, the men, they say the hell with everything. They give up on life, and they become alcoholics, and they get real pissed off, and they can't, for a man not to be able to do anything with his life, most guys cannot handle that emotionally and psychologically.
Yeah.
But a woman doesn't think that way, because a woman's main focus in life is on relationships, family, friends. A woman speaks twice as many words per day as the average guy. It's a whole different way of looking at everything.
Yeah.
So if the economy goes to shit, the woman doesn't give up completely and say, oh, I can't do anything. She still finds friends and ways to eke out a survival. Also, a woman, even my dad told me this, being in the concentration camp, he said a woman is an infinitely better survivor than a man.
Yeah.
A woman has less muscle mass, usually less body size and weight. He said women, they can just survive way, way longer and better with little or no food than almost any man.
Yeah.
And all the guys who died first in the concentration camp were the big, tall guys. They absolutely have to have just a little more food than a little guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the stories my dad told me what went on, it was a coal mine too.
Yeah.
In eastern Ukraine. And the guys who worked down in the mine, they got this much meat a day, half your thumb. The guys who worked above the mine, they didn't get any meat at all. They got one bowl of soup, just water and one noodle in it. So those guys tended to die off quicker also.
Jeez.
Also, the guys that worked down in the mine shafts were all unstable. Every now and then, a guy would be crushed to death alive, and you could hear his screams all over the mine.
Oh man, that's terrible.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was under Stalin. Yeah, it was just unbelievable. And then, as if that wasn't bad enough, my dad had a horrible, horrible childhood before that.
Hmm.
His dad beat him unconscious for a whole week when he was 10 years old because he replaced his adult farmland and made his 10-year-old boy take the adult's place. And then my dad's mom died when he was only 2 years old. She died because her life was so miserable with her husband, him being a beater and an alcoholic, that she caught a cold, didn't take care of herself, caught pneumonia, and died. That's how she got out of the marriage, by dying.
Oh damn. Well.
Yeah. So, do you have a family?
Yeah. My family is we've all lived here. We're my family have they lived in Corpus Christi, Texas.
Oh, what kind
And
of business?
um, huh?
What type of business?
Oh, what type of business? Oh, no business. That's just family, just
Oh,
family
they just
thing.
live there or work or whatever.
Yeah. My dad was in the Vietnam War.
Oh, he was.
Yeah, and
That was a horrible war.
yeah,
I've met so many guys talk about it.
they didn't get the welcome that they should have. Like that. Like
Yeah,
the
they
others
risk their
did.
lives. They're in a war where there's no front anywhere,
Yeah,
and then they come back and get treated like dirt.
yeah, they did.
Yeah, and LBJ made 15 million off that war. All those war criminals in the U.S. made a ton of money off of that. They didn't care how many people died. 1 million civilians died in Vietnam from that war. From all the napalm, all the bombs we dropped on them. Yeah. So you say your dad was in the Vietnam War?
Yeah, he was in the Vietnam War, and for the from 69 to 71, I believe.
Oh.
Yeah, I forget what
What he did
division he was.
exactly?
Well, I know he was a gunman. He was one of the ones with the
Machine gunner on a helicopter
just on the ground.
on the ground,
Yeah,
like a machine gunner.
yeah.
M60,
Um,
50
I'm
caliber?
I'm not quite sure. It's probably one of those two.
Yeah, I fired all that when I was in ROTC.
Yeah, he was a good strong guy. Man, my dad.
Had to haul that thing around with all that ammo.
Yeah, and he had some good friends, and
Uh-huh.
I got pictures too of him with some of his friends, and I keep most of them.
How old is your dad now?
He would be 70, 75
He would
today.
be?
Yeah, he passed away a few years ago.
Oh, what did he pass away from? Agent Orange?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Because it caused some of it played a part in his cancer,
Right.
and not only that, he'd smoked too.
Oh, that didn't help.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
it, he had gotten chemo, and it ended
Oh,
up
that kills people too.
yeah, and it went away for a little bit, and he was doing fine for a little while, and it came back again, and
Yeah, the
something
chemo
else.
kind of knocks the cancer down temporarily. And they do it because it makes a shit ton of money and it doesn't cure the cancer. That's their goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just murdered my first wife, right before Christmas. She had stage 4 cancer, and they gave her chemo and radiation and killed her off. Because on the chemo and radiation, they can make at least $300,000 killing her off.
Yeah, I always looked at it that way. Like it helps a little bit, but it just in the long run, it'll just take over, and
Yeah, there's over 300 cancer cures, and almost all of them are free.
yeah,
Yeah, you can write them down right now. I know a bunch of them.
yeah,
Yeah, and they do everything they can to suppress those cures from the public.
yeah. I wish there was another way, but it kind of sucks, because I wish I had my dad here a lot longer. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because my mom, I can still have my mom, but
Uh-huh.
we all do miss my dad very much, and
Oh yeah, you have brothers and sisters?
yeah, I got three brothers and two sisters.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You got them too, at least.
Yeah, we still got our family here, so.
Do you
very
have
grateful.
your own wife and kids?
No.
What age are you? Well, like 20?
43.
What?
Yeah.
No damn way, man.
Yeah.
Holy moly, you look really way younger than that. How do you do it? Good
I
genes?
I don't smoke.
Well, that's good.
I don't smoke cigarettes.
And you don't get a
Just
bunch of suntans. That wrinkles the
I ride my
skin.
bike around town. Try to stay as fit as possible, and
Well, that at least get that vitamin D that way. You
yeah,
gotta have that from like I had my shirt off when I worked outside today.
yeah,
Gotta get that vitamin D.
yeah, yeah. Stay healthy as possible and eat
Yeah.
good, and
And we're lucky here because in the winter we still get a lot of sunshine.
yeah,
Yeah, we are so lucky to live in Arizona.
yeah. It's a nice place. It's beautiful out today.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I got
Considering,
a whole bunch more firewood. I filled 5 crates of firewood because it's gonna rain someday, so I gotta build up my stock of burnable firewood.
well, I know they were getting that rain in California too.
Yeah.
It was hitting parts of California around that way.
So you're 43 and still haven't married?
I don't want to get married. I see other people that are married, and sometimes the people, they look happy, and you think that's what I want.
Yeah.
But then you see later on they'll talk to you, and without
What's
their
really going on?
yeah, what's really going on, they'll be like, yeah, I don't really like
Yeah.
being married or whatever.
You know, I keep running into more and more good-looking young guys like you that say they never want to marry. And I know one right now, and he's a millionaire, and he's my brother, my
Oh, okay.
full-blooded brother, and he swears he'll never marry. He lives in an $800,000 house that's almost paid off in Tempe. He's got other investments. He makes $200,000-300,000 a year in real estate. He never advertises
Hmm.
because he's so good at it. People just come to him.
Yeah.
and he's a real good guy too, a real nice guy. He's now, I think, 54, and every now and then, he'll date somebody a little bit. When I look at his girlfriends, I'm like, that's what they look like.
Yeah.
I mean, none of them look like this.
Oh yeah.
I passed up 2 women when I was 60 years old that looked like this.
That's amazingly beautiful there,
I
man.
mean,
It's
they
just-
didn't have the big boobs, but man, the blonde looked like a 10 plus.
yeah.
And the redhead was at least a 9 plus. And they both were crazy about me, and I didn't even ask them on a date.
Yeah.
The blonde even looked at me one day and said, I'd like to have a baby. And I still didn't ask her on a date. Now, I mean, of course, if I could go redo it, I'd have given them both a chance. I would have loved to have them both,
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm thinking of creating like a whole new form of marriage that's like almost not like a marriage, but more like just a basic commitment thing.
Hmm.
And it's actually would be more than 2 adults per family,
Yeah.
and it'd be a whole new type of documentation involved, and everybody would work together instead of all that jealousy and infighting and all that stuff.
And the whatchamacallit, the little thing that you have to sign when you get married,
The gov-
like when you guys divorce, and then
Oh,
also
when
gets
the divorce, it's hell.
yeah.
It's hell on everybody, unless the guy has assets. If the guy has assets, he gets raped, and the woman gets that. If the woman has assets, she loses a bunch of assets.
Yeah.
Whoever has more money and assets loses like crazy, and then plus the emotional devastation and the kids being involved. Yeah, so I was thinking, okay, even in America today, the divorce rate is still like half of all marriages.
Yeah.
And the half that remain married, the majority of them are miserably married.
Yeah.
There
Like,
you
I
go.
have a couple of friends that are married, and
Uh-huh.
I've talked to one of my friends, and he was like, eh, he looks like he's happy, but inside, he's probably
Quiet desperation.
yeah, something, yeah, like that.
Right.
But yeah, I'd like women, but just for now, I just want to get myself together, and
See, that's another thing. See, the criminals that think they own us all, this whole planet, think they own humanity, they use their fake money system to control us and enslave us. So they do have to follow one of God's laws. The devil has to tell you that his money is fake. That's why the devil has to put this on his fake money. This note, read that.
Is legal tender for all debts, public and private.
That means it's not money, it's a debt note. Because they lent us this dollar at face value and it cost them 1 penny to print it.
1 penny?
Yes.
For
Yes.
to print a dollar?
Yes, or, well, it might be a little higher now, I don't know, but it's not much more than a penny. And it doesn't matter if it's a $1 bill or a $50 bill or a $100 bill. And they all have to write on there that the money is basically fake. Let's see, 50 has it on there. Yeah, there it is, see? This note is,
Yeah.
see, it has it on there too.
Yeah.
Now, this was a good man right here, Ulysses Grant. I read a 500-page book on him.
Yeah, dude, I like a lot of things history. It's especially around this area in Arizona, or just wherever in Arizona,
Yeah.
or just in general. I was trying to get up over here to the Chiricahua Museum over there to see if I could do a live stream there. Show my viewers, a little bit of the.
Here, you
history
keep
we
that
got going on.
dollar so you can, let me give you a prettier dollar. Yeah, a little prettier. Hang on to this dollar so you can always show people that the devil has to tell us his money is fake, okay?
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Thanks.
Sure.
Yeah.
You gotta have proof in your hand, right?
Right on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some really good women, like in Eastern Europe, Ukraine, Russia. And there's a tiny percentage of good women in the US, but they've been so heavily brainwashed under the guise of women's rights.
Yeah.
The women's rights movement has nothing to do with women's rights. It has everything to do with destroying women's lives and happiness. That's the real goal behind it.
Yeah.
Under the lies and propaganda of supposedly women's rights. It goes completely against the woman's basic nature, and it goes completely against a man's basic nature too. And God actually taught me that in 2010. When I asked God a direct question, how did you come up with the idea of male and female? And God told me. And from that I could figure out all the basic psychological differences between men and women and what they really want, in their lives. And so this corrupt system, Ismail Perez, I read his book, Our Cosmic Origins, and I've listened to a whole bunch of his interviews on YouTube. I think he's spot on. He says this criminal cabal, the only reason God allows them to abuse us is so we have the opposition to learn from. Because if we don't have that opposing force against us, then we wouldn't have an opportunity to learn anything. So, that's the only reason God allows it. And he says these guys are going to be defeated completely. And we are going to have a golden age on this planet. And it's going to be a higher frequency planet. We're going to be like from the fourth dimension on up. What he says. And I found out how men and women have sex in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension. I'm going to write a book about it.
Oh wow, that's all new to me.
Yeah.
I never heard that before.
Yeah, and when I write these women, I tell them what I'll do when we get intimate, and they just go crazy over it. They say, "Wow, would I love to have that?"
Yeah.
Like a whole another level of foreplay.
Yeah.
And to where I can give the girl a whole bunch of orgasms even without having intercourse.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, women really, they really love that, and women are created that way. God told me so.
Yeah.
Women are created with an ability to have incredible orgasms and touch, and that kind of love. And that's another thing the cabal has done is separate people. See, you don't want to get married, right?
Nah.
And they've made life so damned expensive, it's almost impossible for you to get married and raise a family, even if you wanted to.
Yeah.
See, they've made housing expensive, fuel, if you have a baby and it's a perfectly healthy, normal birth, you practically got to mortgage your house to pay for that.
Yeah.
And they've been suppressing humanity like crazy. So that's what they've been doing. It's time to change it. I want to create a way to build housing where people can have their house for 5 to 10 grand and have no house payment, no rent, and no utility bills. I designed and built 50 houses, and I'm working on a new kind of tiny house designs where I could make that happen. And I've also studied almost all the UFO technologies. I know how almost all flying saucers work, and the basics of how they're designed, engineered, and built. It's 1,000,000 times more efficient than rockets.
Yeah.
You know about that?
I've seen a video of
Uh-huh.
I forget what the channel is, the Y-Files on YouTube.
Yeah.
That they had they shown a video on there, and they were saying something about how the military used one of the spacecrafts to
The
try to drive it.
TR-3B,
I think so.
they blasted a Taliban base in Afghanistan with one.
Yeah, I think they were trying to fly it one time, and they
Uh-huh.
couldn't really fly it. They just went straight up and then just came back down, I guess.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they tried a lot of different versions. Bob Lazar was back engineering one of them, an alien craft by the little gray aliens at Area 51 in the late 1980s. And then after 1990, the government turned over all the UFO research to private corporations, which can do it 50 times faster and more efficiently because they don't compartmentalize everything, and they have the engineers work together on it. But we've had UFOs, decades before that. My distant German cousins started building them in the 1930s in Nazi Germany,
Hmm.
and then they used the old liquid mercury engine. I hate that engine; it's a piece of shit. It's real expensive. It's real hard to build. The old German one, engine life was only 15 hours, because when you spin mercury that fast, you got to have special materials so it doesn't blow apart.
Yeah.
And then the Americans took that over after World War II and improved on it and flew all over the galaxy. But the Americans have been to every corner of this galaxy.
Yeah. It's amazing what kind of things are out there.
Yeah, and teleportation is real too. I did it once without a machine. I want to do it again. I want to visit all these women
Yeah.
without flying those stupid airlines.
You can save on gas too.
Yeah, gas, airline tickets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still use my passport when I get there.
All right.
You want to help me do that? I want to do it repeated.
Oh, I have other things going on right now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Or do you have a job too?
It's not just that. It's just other things that are happening in my life right now. I'm just trying to.
Kind of like personal things or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I hate to cut you off, but I gotta run.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
My name's Arthur.
Hey, my name's Jose.
Jose, okay, nice
Hey,
to meet you. Jose.
nice to meet you too, man.
Yeah, I see you're a Christian too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I went to Christian church with my grandmother when we were kids, so she always taught us the Christian way. And she's
I
a
met
great-
him face to face, eye to eye in 1995.
Yeah.
It blew my mind. I mean, he's totally real, and he's taught me how to heal things in my body through another book I read.
Yeah.
I heal stuff that normally costs $100,000 surgeries.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and let you do your thing. I guess you're gonna.
Yeah, I got to erase some crappy emails. One of my dating sites, they try to get you to watch these really crappy videos, and then they rook you on credits when they do that.
Yeah.
So I got to erase all those things.
Uh-oh.
Careful.
Alrighty.
All right, nice meeting you, Jose. You have a wonderful evening.
Hey, you have a nice one too, man. Good
Yeah,
to see
hope
you.
you get all your stuff taken care of.
Yeah. Alrighty. Hey, thanks for the $1 too.
Oh, my pleasure. Now you got proof of what the devil's money system
Yeah.
that you can always show people.
Yeah. All right. Take care, man.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, just got a little strange on me there. And the pictures of the lady, damn, it looked like he's probably getting catfish, maybe. I'm not sure. He's a little out there. It was far out, man. Uh, I wasn't even expecting that. I was just about ready to shut down the stream and say goodbye to you guys, and here he showed up. Yeah, he's a little out there, man. But um, I do have a Cash App and a PayPal, guys. If you guys are willing to donate for anything, future needs or whatever, the Cash App and PayPal are in the About section of my channel. If you guys are willing to donate, I do appreciate you guys very much. I do need batteries though for my lights on my bike, so if you guys can help out with that, I'd greatly appreciate it. Yeah, the extra bonus footage there behind the scenes. I don't think he knew I was live streaming, so that was a good thing. Quite interesting though. But I thank you guys very much, and we will be back at it again tomorrow. And the Chiricahua Museum, I went to there, and it was closed today, so. Yeah. We shall catch you guys on the next one. This is Jose G, guys. And Wilcox, the Lone Wolf of Arizona. Appreciate you guys.